Hi family, welcome back to ladensercrochets. If you're new to the channel, you're welcome. In this tutorial, we are learning how to make part 1 of this amazing cardigan. It's yet to be done, so this is just part 1. I'm putting the scrap yarn that I have into use, and so I'll be picking my color combinations from there and a 4mm crochet hook. Get your first color and start with a magic ring. And this is how I make my magic ring, just like the way I make my slip knot, but then I do not fasten after inserting the hook and pulling up the loop. So then I'll chain 3, and the chain 3 is my first double crochet, then yarn over, insert the hook into the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2 to complete a double crochet. Then we're going to do another double crochet, which will make 3. Then we're going to make a 4th double crochet. Remember, the chain 3 is the first double crochet, and we're going to do a total of 12 double crochets into that ring. After the 12th double crochet, we pull the shorter end and fasten. Then insert the hook in between the chain, the first chain and the first double crochet. Bring the shorter end on top and then slip stitch to complete round 1. Then chain 1 and get the pair of scissors and cut off the yarn. So I should have mentioned that you need the scissors too. So cut the yarn and pull the yarn through, then fasten, and we have our first round. Get the second color and start with a slip knot. Then we're going to get our work, the circle. Insert the hook where we've just cut off the yarn, in that space between the chain 3 and the first double crochet. Then we're going to work over the ends as we go. Start by chaining 3, and the chain 3 acts as our first double crochet. After chaining 3, yarn over, insert the hook into that same space, yarn over and pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2. Don't complete the double crochet. Yarn over, insert the hook into the same space, and yarn over and pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2. Do an incomplete double crochet, then yarn over, pull through all the 3 loops on the hook. Then we're going to chain 2. After that, we yarn over and we're going to work in between the first double crochet and the second double crochet. Pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2. Don't complete the double crochet. Yarn over into the same space, pull up a loop, pull through 2. Don't complete the double crochet. Then we do a third one, pull up a loop and then pull through 2 without completing. Then we yarn over and now complete by pulling through all the 4 loops. Chain 2. And then we're going to skip over to the next space, the space between the next 2 double crochets. So we yarn over, insert the hook into that space, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Then yarn over into the same space, do an incomplete double crochet, the second one, and then a third incomplete double crochet so that you have 4 loops on the hook. Then yarn over and pull through all the 4. Chain 2, and then we move on to the next space between the next 2 double crochets. In between the 2 double crochets, we place an incomplete double crochet right there. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go into the same space, then yarn over, pull up a loop, get 3 loops. Then we're going to do a third one so that we get 4 loops, and then yarn over, pull through all and chain 2. Then we continue with this pattern to the end of round 2. So we are working in between the double crochets and we are working 3 clusters. We are working a cluster of 3 double crochets that are incomplete. So that's the first. Then we have the second and the third. Then yarn over and pull through all the loops, chain 2 into the next space, do a cluster of 3 incomplete double crochets, so that is 1, then we go back there with 2 and into the same space with a third one. So keep going all the way around, and at the end of round 2 you should have a total of 12 clusters. I'm at the end of round 2 and I'm doing my last cluster in between the last 2 double crochets. So that's 1, 2 and 3. Then I'll pull through all, chain 2, and I'm going to confirm that I have the 12 clusters, so that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Then I've already chained 2, so I'll slip stitch in between the chain 3 and the first double crochet. So do a slip stitch right there and then chain 1, then get the pair of scissors and cut off the yarn, pull it through. Then I'll slip stitch that end and take it to the next space, because that is where I'm going to start and I'll want to work over it. So right here I'm just doing a slip stitch into the next double crochet, and we have it in that first chain 2 space. Get the third color and start with a slip knot. So right here I'm making my slip knot, then I'll get my circle and I'll turn it into a square now, starting from the chain 2 where we have the end. I'm going to slip stitch, yeah, right there. So slip stitch into that chain 2 and then make it tight, then chain 3. As I go I'll work over the end, so chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. That's my first double crochet. Then I'll go back into that space with 2 more double crochets to make a total of 3. So that's 3, then chain 2, and go back into that same chain 2 space and work 3 more double crochets. So we're going to have our first corner right there. So that's 1. Then we have a second double crochet and a third double crochet into the same space. So I'm doing the third double crochet now. So that's 3. And there we have the first corner. We move on to the next chain 2 space, and there we're going to work 3 double crochets. So that's 2 and 3. Then into the next space again we place 3 double crochets, 1, 2 and 3. In the next space, chain 2 space, we're going to place a corner, which is 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 more double crochets. So I'll work 1, 2 and 3, then I'll chain 2 and work 3 more double crochets. We have our second corner right there. So then we're going to move on to the next chain 2 space and place 3 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, and 3. The next space will also get 3 double crochets. 1, then 2, and 3. And then the next one will be our third corner. And so right here we're going to place 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. So that's 2, then we have 3, chain 2, then we have 1, 2, and 3 in the same space. And there we have the third corner. The next 2 spaces will each get 3 double crochets. I'm at the 4th corner now, and right here I'm going to place the 3 double crochets. I'll chain 2 and work 3 more double crochets into the same space to create that 4th corner. After the corner, we have 3 double crochets into the next chain 2 space, and then we have another one. So we have 2 chain 2 spaces remaining, and each of them will get 3 double crochets. So I'm in the last one, and I'm placing my last 3 double crochets. And then to complete the round, work in between the chain 3 and the first double crochet, slip stitch right there, chain 1, and cut off the yarn. And we are done with our round 3, and this is where I'll stop. So after fastening, this is what I have, and like I mentioned, this size of a square will work for a size medium to extra large. If you want a bigger square, you can work an extra row. So now let me get the darning needle and weave in that end. Get the pair of scissors and cut off that end that has remained, and there we have our square. I'm going to need a total of 85 squares for my cardigan. So go on, make the squares, and then we'll get to joining them. I'll be joining using the slip stitch braid method. I've already done a tutorial on how to join the squares using this method, and I'm going to leave a detailed tutorial link in the description box, so be sure to click on it and watch the joining if you feel like whatever I'll be illustrating here will not be as clear for you. So to start joining, get your 2 squares, start with a slip knot. After the slip knot, we're going to get one corner of the 2 squares and insert the hook right there in that corner. Then pull the yarn through and chain 1 to slip stitch. Then fasten. Then we're going to get the corner of the second square, insert the hook just like that and pull up a loop. Next, we're going to work the front loop of the first double crochet on the first square, slip stitch. We move on to the first double crochet of the second square, and we're going to work in the front loop. So insert the hook into the front loop of the first double crochet on your second square and slip stitch. Then we get back to the first square in the next double crochet, the back loop, slip stitch, then slip stitch in the back loop of the next square, the second square. In the next double crochet, do a slip stitch right there. Then we move to the first square in the third double crochet, slip stitch in the back loop. Then next we slip stitch in the front loop of the third double crochet on the second square. Then we're going to continue all the way to the corner. Like I've mentioned, I have a detailed tutorial for this in the description box, so I'm going to speed this up, but if you want the detailed tutorial, you can watch it via that link. At the corner, insert the hook into the corner and slip stitch, then the corner of the other square and slip stitch. After that, we're going to get two more squares. So right here, as you can see, we have the two squares joined. So we're going to get two more squares and we're going to join them right there after the first two that we've done. So we're going to get the hook, and if it was on the right hand side, you're going to start connecting on the left hand side. So connect the square on the left hand side, then connect the square on the right hand side at the corner. So we move in the opposite direction. We move from right to left, left to right. Then we continue joining with the slip stitch in the back loop and the front loop of the double crochets all the way to the corner. I'm at the corner, so I'll do a slip stitch at the corner of one of the squares, then I'll do a slip stitch at the corner of the other square. Those two squares are joined, so we're going to get two more squares and join them in the same exact way. And you want to continue joining two squares until you get to the length of the cardigan that you want. I'll do the joining offline and I'll do a total of four squares in each of the lines. Then I'll come back and show you what to do next. I'm done with the 4 squares, so at the end I'll chain 1 and cut off the yarn. Now if you want a longer cardigan, keep joining the squares until you get to your desired length minus the length of the ribbon, which is about 2 inches. So the length of my cardigan right now is 14.5. When I add the ribbon, it will go up to around 17 inches. So that's what I'm going to work with. Then I'll add another row of the squares because I'm working my... So let's measure the width first before we do the joining. and the width, when it's slightly stretched, it goes up to 9 inches. Right here we're working the back panel, and I want my back panel to have a total of five squares in the width. So I already have 2. I'll keep joining until I get 5. So I'll start joining one square at a time, which will be my third row of the squares. So right there I've gotten my first square, and I'll start with a slip knot at one of the squares. I've already done the slip knot, so right here I'll slip stitch and then chain 1. Then I'll grab that square that I want to join, and I'll slip stitch at the corner. So do the slip stitch at that corner of the square that you're joining. Then for the rest of the joint, we're going to do the same exact way we've done with the other squares. Start in the back loop of the first double crochet and slip stitch. Then the front loop of the first double crochet on the square that we're joining right now. Slip stitch, then continue all the way to the corner. At the corner we slip stitch in the corners, so I'm doing the second slip stitch in the second corner. Then I'll get the second square on the previous row and slip stitch into that corner before getting another square and joining it over the one that we've just joined. So we're going to get the corner of that square and slip stitch to connect it, and then we continue normally working the back loop of the double crochets and the front loop of the double crochet on the other square. This is what I have after joining all the way to the top, and we have our 3 rows. So I'm going to add a 4th row right there. So I'm just arranging the squares to show you how they look like. So I'll add the 4th row, then a 5th one. This is what I'm going to get after adding the 5 rows, and the 5 rows represent the width of my cardigan. Make sure that the width of your cardigan has an odd number of rows. And now we're going to join from the opposite side, starting with a slip knot, and you want to make sure that your yarn is under your work because we're doing slip stitches. So make sure that you're going under your work, and in the very first corner you do the slip knot, then slip stitch it into the first square. Right here I'm just trying to get that knot, sorry. So I want to insert the knot into the hook and then make it smaller, then chain 1 to slip stitch, and we get the other corner and slip stitch into it. After that, we're going to start doing the slip stitch on the double crochets in the back loop on one of the squares and the front loop on the other square, and then we continue to the next corner, and then at that corner I'll show you what to do. I've gotten to the corner, so I'll insert my hook into the corner of the square on the left hand side and slip stitch, then into the square on the left hand side and slip stitch. Then that part is done, so we're going to go over and slip stitch into the corner of the next squares in the opposite sides like we've been doing. So right here, slip stitch, and this is how the corner will look like after the 4 squares are joined. Then we start with the double crochets in the back loop on the left hand side and the front loop on the right hand side. Then again we keep going until we get to the corner. When we get to the corner, we're going to connect the same exact way we've connected in this first corner that we've just done. Right here I'm doing my slip stitches at the corners, and then I'll just continue all the way to the end. So let me keep going to the end of this, what can we call it, a row, at the end of this joining, and then after that I'll do the rest of the 2 joins that are remaining. After that first joining, that is what we're going to have. So I'll get the yarn, connect it at the second part of joining, and then I'll continue all the way to the end. Then I'll do the same thing with the third one. After doing all the joinings, this is what we have, a total of 5 squares in the width, and when we measure these without stretching, it gets us to 18 inches, but when we stretch it out a little bit, it can go up to around 21. So give this a bit of a stretch and it goes up to 21. Then the length is 14, and like I mentioned, we're going to have a ribbon at the bottom which can take us up to 17 inches. That's my back panel, which has a total of 5 squares in the width. Then I have 2 front panels which have a total of 2 in the width and 4 in the length, in the height, that is. Then we have the sleeves. which have a total of 16 squares, 4 on one side, 4 on the other side. And this is how they look like. In total, you should have 5 panels, 2 sleeves, 2 front panels, and 1 back panel. This is how the panels will fit together: the back panel, the 2 front panels right there, one of the sleeves over there, and the other sleeve on the other side, as you can see. So this is how we're going to join the panels to come up with the cardigan. So let's get to joining. I have my back panel and the 2 front panels, and we're joining from the right side. Start with a slip knot, and then we're going to join on the shoulder part, 1 front panel at the corner of one of the squares, do a slip stitch, then get 1 corner of the back panel and slip stitch right there. And then basically the joining is exactly the same way we've been doing with the squares, with the individual squares. So start at the corner, then move on to the back panel of the double crochet, then the front panel of the other double crochet. All you need to make sure is that you're joining from the right side of the panels. I'm at the corner, so I'm doing my last slip stitch onto that corner. Then the very last one will be on the corner of the back panel, and then I'll chain 1 and cut off the yarn. After that, I'll pull the yarn through and fasten, and one of the front panels is joined. So I'll get the other front panel and join it on the other side, such that we have 1 square remaining in the middle part. So this is what we have when we have one of the panels joined. So the other one goes right there on the other edge. So I'll do that connection, then come back. After connecting the second front panel, this is what we have. So now we are ready to connect the sleeves. When you fold this is how it looks like, with 1 square at the back panel remaining in the middle. So then we're going to get the sleeves and join them. To join the sleeves, we hold our work like this, then get one of the sleeves, and it's going to go on the other side. I'm just turning to make sure that my pattern is okay. Yeah, like that. I want to make sure that I'm alternating the colors. So that's where my first sleeve will go, and that means 2 squares on the front panel will be covered and 2 squares on the back panel. So I'll turn my work like this, and then I'll start joining. You can see it's so easy. So we're going to join the same exact way we've joined all the other parts. So get the yarn, start with a slip knot at the corners, slip stitch at the corners, that is. So in the first corner right there, I'm going to do my slip stitch. Then I'll get the first corner on the sleeve and slip stitch. Then I'll join to the end of the sleeve. Once I've gotten to the end of that sleeve, I'll get the other sleeve, and then I'll attach it on the opposite side right there. Now this is what we're going to get after we've joined everything. That is the back panel with the front panel, the sleeves, on each of the sides, and this is how our cardigan folds in, just like that. The next thing that you're going to do is join from the edge of one of the sleeves all the way to the bottom of the cardigan. Then we're going to turn the other side and do the same joint. But then I realized that my cardigan was too short. I wanted to do a cropped cardigan, but this one was too short for my liking. So I'll be adding one square at the bottom part of my cardigan, both in the front panels and the back panels. Then I'll also add one square on the sleeves, on both sides of the sleeves, and then I'll show you how to join after I've added the squares on each of the sides. I went on to add the squares on the sleeve at the bottom part of the cardigan. Then I joined one of the parts of the cardigan, one of the sides of the cardigan from the sleeves all the way to the bottom. So now I'll show you how to join the other side. So right there, we're going to start from the sleeve, and you actually know how to do the joining. So just get your yarn and start with a slip knot, and then connect the yarn at the very edge of the sleeve, then join all the way through the armpits all the way to the bottom. So let's do that. At the very end, we chain one and we cut off the yarn. Then we're going to pull it through and fasten, and we have that side joined. So our cardigan is almost ready. The only thing that's remaining is to do the ribbing. As you can see, the sleeve is in place. I'm totally loving how this is coming out, and the blend of colors is just amazing. So next we're going to do the ribbing on the front part of the cardigan, starting from the bottom all the way through the neckline back to the bottom, and then we just, after that, yeah, that is how it's going to go. And then after that, we'll do another ribbing at the bottom part of the cardigan. Then we're going to do a ribbing on both of the sleeves. This is how far along we are with the cardigan, and this will be the end of part 1 of the cardigan. A link for part 2 of the cardigan will be in the description box. Click on it to watch part 2. See you in the next one.